Watch these few seconds from a video produced, well, it's actually a programme on Newsnight. Jeremy Corbyn, a profile by Stephen Bush, BBC Newsnight. I want you particularly to listen for this, what he's going into, Corbyn's history of being involved in politics. He's going back to his early family life. He's mentioned he was born in 1949. He's mentioned actually also something quite interesting. He hasn't got a university degree, indeed. He left school with an A, with 2 E's at A level. I might add, by the way, I left school with a C and an E at A level. Okay, but there is a fascinating bit where later on in this description of Jeremy as a much younger man, a school leaver virtually, or perhaps even when he was at school, he does mention that he refused to attend the Combined Cadet Force, and he was therefore apparently asked to mow the lawns instead. Listen out for a phrase that says something like, and was left alone to foment rebellion. This is the BBC. Okay, it's supposed to be a profile, but just listen for that. Gonna get it working in a second.
Were shaped. There was an atmosphere both in my house and indeed in Jeremy's house of the parents and the youngsters talking together quite seriously about politics and being taken seriously, not being patronised.
Their first campaign was the 1964 election, when Harold Wilson ended 13 years of Conservative rule.
We did do things together, fundraising. It was in a marginal constituency of the Wrekin, and it was worth getting out on the streets for.
And that's what every party wants to know from its canvassing. It wants to pinpoint its supporters, to make sure that it can get everyone to the polls on October the 15th.
He left his traditional school with only 2 E's at A level, but thoroughly educated in politics. In an early example of activism, he'd refused to join the school's Combined Cadet Force. Conscientious objectors like Corbyn were instead allowed to mow the lawns and foment rebellion.
We had a little room where we could disappear when we'd done all the jobs and make ourselves a cup of tea, and it was, and indeed engage in further political discussion, because it was a time of great political discussion.
But Vietnam, combined with Wilson's failure to really transform Britain, meant many on the left became disillusioned. By the time Corbyn moved to London in the 1970s, they had a theory. To fix Labour, its members needed to take over the party, to fight the leadership at every level.
They blamed the mass media.
On everything from foreign policy to management of policing.
And the Home Secretary had to reply to attacks on the police, like this one by a militant young delegate.
If this government can find time...
Okay, I'll stop it there. And immediately you can see exactly where the bias of the BBC is again stepping in and even using this to, I don't know, smear Corbyn. Look at he's much, much younger then, right? And you hear that last thing about? They blamed the media for everything. They blamed the media, yep. You can see exactly where this is going, can't you? Yeah? It's going straight down the routes of lefty, anti-establishment Corbyn, been that way, peace activist and whatever. Now, I might watch the rest of this so-called profile of the man, but you can already see how it's been slanted. Yeah? Well done, BBC. Newsnight. Dare I say more? Probably almost as good as BBC Questioning Times.